through her sinister and corrupt duplication of Kaldheim's world tree, the mother of machines, Elish Norn, has successfully infiltrated the entire multiverse, pulsating from the seed core within the metallic heart of New Phyrexia, chants a singular, devoted, and all-encompassing voice. All will be one. And that's true for today's list of the best new cards for Commander for the 99 cards that you need to pick up instead of buying and cracking packs from Phyrexia All Will Be One. Because of course, booster packs are for draft, an amazing draft environment, but when you're looking to upgrade or perhaps build new Commander decks, if you're looking for cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One, I have one card for you, and then one more card for you, and then many more one more cards for you. So don't buy Phyrexia All Will Be One just for the Commander cards. Buy this one Commander cards instead. It makes sense. It's a premise. Just follow along with me here. But first, coming back to the Tolarian Community College offices is the great service provided by Factor, sponsor of this video. You know, food delivery like Factor was underappreciated in my mind until I was able to experience what it's like to have quality chef-level meals instantly. Now it's the bee's knees. No longer do I think about preparation during or after my workday because it's all done for me. All I gotta do is choose and that's it. Take your meals seriously with Factor. Stop straining over what your next dish will be. Factor has a magnitude of professional, chef-ready dishes for you to choose from. And those chefs are smart. They have your health in mind with keto-aware meals, calorie-smart vegan and/or vegetarian meals. The savings on these meals are fantastic too. At just roughly $3 with the help of my link, your wallet can rest easy knowing you're not dropping bills on equivalent dining experiences. So keep fast food out of your daily routine and factor in a new method for your dining lifestyle. Use my code or go to go.factor75.com and use code POGTCCFEB50 for, 50% off your first box? Take guessing out of the equation with Factor. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video. Let's begin with an honorable mention that harkens all the way back to 2004's Darksteel set, which contained the Sword of Light and Shadow and Sword of Fire and Ice. These two equipment spells would start a lineage of beloved, powerful, and similarly flavored cards. Sword of Body and Mind, Sword of Feast and Famine, and Sword of War and Peace, with all three appearing on the plane of New Phyrexia during 2010's Scars of Mirrodin block. Well now, forged in the harsh metals of New Phyrexia, just like its predecessors, comes this list's honorable mention. It's Sword of Forge and Frontier, the next in the lineage of mythical swords. Sword of Forge and Frontier is an artifact equipment that costs 3 generic to cast and 2 generic mana to equip. It states, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and from green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. You may play an additional land this turn. Hey, big shout out to Faldorn Dreadwolf Herald, who embodies the Gruul Impulse Draw landscape that Sword of Forge and Frontier continues to carve out. When equipped with this weapon, Faldorn becomes a 5/5 with protection from red and green, and upon dealing combat damage, we exile the top 2 cards of our library and may play an additional land. Whether it's a land or a spell, let's do our best to play both of the top exiled cards, because as we do, Faldorn will reward us with a 2/2 green wolf creature token for each. Sword of Forge and Frontier is going to find the best synergies underneath commanders who value playing cards from exile the way Faldorn does. Lelia, Blade Reforged, grows ever more powerful with each card our sword exiles from the library. And when equipped with Sword of Forge and Frontier, by the end step, what started as a 2/2 commander could end up a whopping 7/7. There's so much power here, and yet the fact this sword is just an honorable mention on our one true list should tell you just how high the bar has been raised from this set for Commander. So now that that one card is out of the way, let us begin our numbered list. While we build up to our one best card from 1, let's start the list with 1, where we have a card that will allow us to revel in the brand new set mechanic Toxic, while also giving us a nigh unparalleled source of token production. Just try real hard not to think about the teeth. Starting our one true list in creepy, crawly, and disturbing fashion, we have Skrelv's Hive. Skrelv's Hive is an enchantment that costs 1 generic and 1 white mana. It states, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1 and this creature can't block. The spell continues with Corrupted. As long as an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink. Let the glorious mechanized production begin. One aspect that must not be overlooked with the introduction of this new, efficient white enchantment is just how rare it is to gain a token creature on each of our upkeeps at 2 mana value. Exactly how many cards exist currently that produce us token creatures at this rate? Go on, guess. Just 1. Token and Aristocrat deck All-Star Bitter Blossom, which for 1 generic and 1 black mana produces a 1/1 flying black fairy rogue creature token on each of our upkeeps. Though the token from Bitter Blossom has flying and is able to block, there are still tons of reasons to run Skrelv's Hive as an alternative in many of our commander decks. One reason is that the tokens Skrelv's Hive creates are artifacts. This unlocks synergies far and wide that Bitter Blossom simply does not have. Skrelv's Hive is suddenly serving us not just attackers, but ramp each upkeep as long as we're playing Improvise and Affinity for artifact cards. Cards like Kappa Cannoneer not only receive a discounted mana cost when we tap our artifact mites, but will become unblockable and grow continually stronger for each subsequent might that enters our battlefield. Other cards that appreciate artifacts entering the battlefield, like Reckless Fireweaver and Teething Wormlet, will be unsung heroes next to a Skrelv's Hive. With Fireweaver slowly singeing our opponent's life totals as each might enters, and Teething Wormlet slowly growing in size, and even replenishing the life lost with each entering might. Players interested in building brand new Toxic and Infect decks should consider this diverse and compact enchantment as well, as not only does it create more creatures to infect our opponents with, but also gives us a substantial lifelink payoff for corrupting our opponents with 3 or more poison counters. Now, not only does our brand new Tyrannix Rex threaten and infect KO when it attacks alongside our mites, but it also puts us further ahead of the remaining opponents when we gain 8 life on combat damage thanks to our Hive's lifelink. From artifact synergies to toxic synergies to regular old token and aristocrat strategies, Skrelv's Hive is sure to deliver a reliable game piece in the way that Bitter Blossom has for all those years. But now, on to the one next card on our list, and it's one that token players in particular ought to be sweating about seeing when it hits the battlefield across from them. What card is it? Demons and Phyrexians, 2 of the darkest and most brutal creatures known to Magic lore. For the first time in over a decade, we see these creature types once again entwined, with our number 1 pick on this list, Archfiend of the Dross. Archfiend of the Dross is a 6/6 flying Phyrexian demon that costs 2 generic and 2 black mana. It states, Archfiend of the Dross enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of the Dross. Then, if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. Hold the phone. Does this card actually say we lose the game on it? There better be some serious upside beyond a 6/6 flying body for 4 mana here. Now, what else does it say? Whenever a creature an opponent controlled dies, its controller loses 2 life. Oh my. Now, this is an upside we can work with. While Archfiend of the Dross comes attached with the potential to lose us the game, how about we simply include it in a deck where we can destroy it at our leisure, guaranteeing we never remove that 4th oil counter, after we've utilized the creature for tremendous damage, of course. Wiping the board in EDH is a tricky game to play, and if you ever plan to do it, you'll want to be sure that you come out on top of that board wipe. Archfiend of the Dross is just the tool to make sure that we do. After we've dealt 6 flying combat damage a few times, let's follow up with a deadly Deadly Tempest, destroying all creatures on the battlefield and having each player lose life equal to the creatures they controlled that died this way. Though our Archfiend will also be destroyed, its ability will still see every other creature that died, and our opponent's life totals will melt away in the blink of an eye. Should an opponent have been so brazen as to have 10 creatures in play when our Deadly Tempest and Archfiend of the Dross combination resolves, they will lose a harrowing 30 life after all effects are resolved. We can press for consistency too. Next to our Archfiend, let's include 2 creatures that will amplify our merciless game plan: Massacre Worm and Assault Intercessor, both creatures that come suited with the very same effect as Archfiend of the Dross. Having all 3 of these creatures on board and resolving a Deadly Tempest means our opponents need only have 6 creatures on their board to lose an absurdly lethal 42 life. Fallen heroes are a vital ingredient to the gravitas of epic fantasy stories, like the one Wizards of the Coast tells with Magic the Gathering. Too often, however, has the story been needlessly tepid and cautious with major character losses, leading to narrative climaxes like War of the Spark feeling somewhat weightless, unless you were a fan of Domri Raid, which, let's be honest, you were not. Repercussions are needed, and it seems this could all finally change with Phyrexia All Will Be One, as not 1, but 5 beloved planeswalkers have been completed by Elish Norn, their old selves corrupted and, presumably, gone forever. They wouldn't hit a reset button on that, would they? This isn't Star Trek Voyager. Well, the next card on our list honors one particular sacrifice. For me, there is no comparison to what is the most devastating loss sustained thus far in the Phyrexian War. Our next of several one pick from Phyrexia All Will Be One is Nissa Ascended Animist. Nissa Ascended Animist is a legendary planeswalker that costs 3 generic, 2 green, and 2 Phyrexian green mana. Nissa is completed, which means we may pay 2 life instead of 1 green mana for each Phyrexian green mana symbol in her cost. And she will enter with 2 less loyalty for each time we pay life to cast her this way. What this ultimately means is that Nissa has a modal effect when in our hand. Mode 1, we can pay 5 mana and lose 4 life for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. Mode 2, we can pay 6 mana and lose 2 life for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Or Mode 3, we can pay 7 life and lose 0 life for a 7 loyalty planeswalker. No matter what mode we choose, Nissa is assuredly going to remain relevant in our board state throughout the game. Her +1 activated ability states create an XX green Phyrexian horror creature token, where X is Nissa Ascended Animist's loyalty. This means the turn she comes in, she can protect herself with a 4/4, a 6/6, or an 8/8 blocker, all while increasing her own durability with +1 loyalty. Her -1 ability states, destroy target artifact or enchantment, which is a line of text that remains highly relevant from turn 1 until the end of the game, as we keep Anointed Procession, Vidalcan Orrery, Mana Crypt, and other critical threatening targets in check. And finally, there is Nissa's Holy Grail ability, and it's one we can reliably activate immediately as long as we pay the full 7 mana to cast her. Her -7 activated ability states, until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 for each forest you control and gain trample. Oh my goodness, it's a planeswalker hoof behemoth! I'm over the moon about win conditions that reward devotion to a single color, and I believe with this fantastic ultimate ability, Nissa Ascended Animist deserves to be considered for nearly every mono-green creature deck in Commander. So what are the top 2 1 cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One for Commander? The next card on our list is the ultimate embodiment of the Phyrexian singular mission, All Will Be One, because our next 1 card from 1 is literally All Will Be One. All Will Be One is an enchantment that costs 3 generic and 2 red mana. It states, whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. Counters are already outrageously abundant in Commander. Seriously, they're everywhere, and weaponizing each one you place with direct damage is an absurdly lethal effect, unseen as of yet. Powerful but fair ways to utilize this effect would be playing it in conjunction with cards like Shivan Devastator and Stonecoil Serpent, each of which enter the battlefield with counters on them equal to the mana we invested into them. If we spend 8 mana to cast Shivan Devastator, it will enter with 7 +1/+1 counters, and All Will Be One will deal 7 damage to our opponent before our creature even sees the combat phase. But like I said, that would just be if we wanted to play it fair. This card is capable of so much more. Do not get too comfortable when this hits the board, because All Will Be One is actually a game-breaking infinite combo engine as well. All one needs to do is have the red terror in play, deal any amount of damage with a red source, and All Will Be One takes care of the rest. Whenever a red source we control deals damage, we'll place a counter on the red terror with its ability. Then, as that counter is placed on it, All Will Be One will trigger, dealing a damage to our opponents. Then, as that damage is dealt, a counter is placed on the red terror again, thus beginning our cycle of infinite damage and sealing our win condition. Quest for Pure Flame will achieve this very same outcome, with even less mana investment required. Players are going to be keeping an eye out for these game-ending combos, so if you aren't playing the red terror or Quest for Pure Flame alongside your copy of All Will Be One, be sure to actually let your fellow players know during the Rule 0 conversation that you do not have the infinite combo. That way they don't start gunning for you immediately. And so we make it to the final spot on our list. While this set has been bountiful for infect decks across the EDH landscape, there is another deck archetype that is just as foul, which has been just as spoiled. I speak, of course, of, Planeswalker decks, also known as Super Friends decks. Well, they sure need a boost to their power level, don't they? They got it in this set with our number 1, and this time I really mean it, 1 card. So out of every one of these cards we've listed so far, the number 1 spot from 1 on our one and only list goes to Ichormoon Gauntlet. Ichormoon Gauntlet is an artifact that costs 2 generic and 1 blue mana. It states planeswalkers you control have pay 0 loyalty, proliferate, and pay 12 loyalty, take an extra turn after this one. Additionally, it states, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose a counter on target permanent. Put an additional counter on that kind of permanent. And so another card joins the echelon of win conditions available for Super Friends decks. Thankfully, this one requires jumping through a few more hoops than doubling season. That being the case, it is safe to say that Ichormoon Gauntlet can absolutely be a game-winning threat. For example, if we cast Contentious Plan and Experimental Augury while Ichormoon Gauntlet is in play, between the spell's Proliferate effect and Ichormoon Gauntlet's second ability, this would allow us to put a grand total of 4 loyalty counters on any one planeswalker. The number of planeswalkers who can immediately use their game-winning ultimate ability after adding just 4 loyalty is massive. Liliana, Dreadhorde General, and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria being 2 prime examples, with Liliana forcing our opponents to sacrifice nearly all their permanents, and Teferi's emblem giving us a way to control the game state permanently. And heck, with just enough proliferate abilities and just enough planeswalkers in play, we may have the resources to achieve that coveted -12 loyalty ability granted to us by the Ichormoon Gauntlet, sealing the extra turn and undoubtedly our victory as well. But that is just one example of many, many broken uses of this card, making it the number 1 pick for Commander from Phyrexia All Will Be One. And thus ends our 5 one and only cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One for the 99 of your Commander deck. Remember, draft is an amazing way to experience this set. My next video is a draft guide to Phyrexia All Will Be One. So if you've never drafted, or it's been a long time, or you just want to catch up and hit the ground running, be sure to keep an eye open for that video. And let me know in the comments below if there are any Commander cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One that did not make our list that you think should have. Which ones and why? Tell me. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video. You know, I really like these meals and the convenience it provides me to fuel up and continue doing my magical professor work, with options that range from a hearty protein plan to health-focused vegan and veggie meals. You're in good care with Factor. So check out Factor using my link, or go to go.factor75.com and use code POG TCCFEB50 for 50% off on your first box. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Today, two titans of Magic the Gathering commentary coverage. The one and only Cedric Phillips. The other one and only Patrick Sullivan. And you chose the format and the decks, and the choice was Modern.
Yes, these are our cards. These are 100% my cards.
Let's let this be the last friendly exchange of this match.
Perfect. Deal.
All right, so second main phase.
Do it.
I'm gonna pass priority to you. I'm just trying to keep a clean game.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a basic island
Wonderful.
of this snow-covered variety.
Why is there snow cover lands in this deck?
Because they're cooler.
You're definitely not.
Okay, well, I would not play a creature.
Why? Well, like, do you have a lightning bolt in your hand or something? You don't know the number of personal grievances over the course of 20 years that are being aired out right now in between these communications.
20 years.
Neither did I. We've known each other for a long time.
It's true.